All right, welcome back everybody for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something that sounds a little bit niche, but I promise it's going to be really interesting. We're talking about using Python inside of Excel.
Yeah.
Um, and we found some really interesting notes on this from a source called Pasted Text. And what we're hoping to do today is basically figure out, is this something that normal people can use, or is it only for like real hardcore programmers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question, right? Like, is this just something that's going to be so complicated that nobody's going to bother with it?
Right.
Or is it something that actually has some practical applications for people who are already using Excel every day?
Right. And I think the answer is going to be that it is useful for normal people.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, obviously.
Sure.
But the payoff is potentially pretty big.
Absolutely.
So what is it about Python that makes it so valuable inside of Excel? Like why would we even bother?
Well, Excel is really good at what it does, for basic calculations, for organizing data, for making simple charts and graphs.
Yeah.
But it hits a wall pretty quickly when you start trying to do more complicated things.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you want to pull data from a website, or you want to clean up a really messy data set,
Right.
or you want to do some serious statistical analysis. Excel it's not built for that.
Right.
But Python is.
Okay.
And so by integrating Python into Excel, you can basically supercharge your spreadsheets.
So it's almost like turning your spreadsheet into a mini programming environment.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So it gives you the power of a programming language, but without having to leave the familiar interface of Excel.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
And, the notes that we're looking at from Pasted Text, they really emphasize this idea that you don't have to be a coding expert to take advantage of this.
Okay.
There are a lot of resources out there that can help you get started with Python in Excel.
So even if you've never written a line of code in your life, you can still learn the basics and start using Python.
Yeah, and I think that's the most exciting thing about this. It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities
Right.
for people who are already comfortable with Excel.
Now, I do have to ask, though, because I've heard that. Using Python in Excel can be a little bit tricky.
Sure.
Like, what are some of the challenges that people might run into?
Well, one of the most common problems is encountering errors.
Okay.
Like, you're working on something and suddenly you get a hashtag BUSY error.
Yeah.
Or a hashtag connect.error.
Yeah.
And you're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and your whole spreadsheet just freezes up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just close it and restart it.
Yeah, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
But the good news is there's actually a really simple fix for this.
Okay, no anymore.
It's a keyboard shortcut with CTRL+ALT+SHIFT+F9.
Wow.
And what that does is it basically resets the Python runtime in Excel. So it's like hitting the reset button on a glitchy program.
So it's like clearing the cache.
Yeah, exactly. It just gives everything a fresh start.
And so if you're running into one of those errors, you can just hit that shortcut and it'll hopefully clear it up.
Right. It's not a guaranteed fix for every problem.
Sure.
But it's a really good first step.
It's funny because it's such a simple thing, but it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's kind of the theme of this whole deep dive, right? It's like Python and Excel might seem intimidating at first, but it's actually not that complicated. And the potential benefits are really, really big.
Absolutely.
So let's try to make this a little bit more concrete for our listeners. Can you give me an example of how Python could actually make my life easier in Excel?
Sure. So let's say you're a marketing manager.
Okay.
And you need to analyze data from different social media platforms. Now, you could do this manually.
Right.
You could go to each platform, copy and paste the data into Excel. But that would be a nightmare. It would be incredibly time-consuming.
And prone to errors.
Exactly. But with Python, you could write a simple script that would automatically pull that data directly into your spreadsheet.
So you wouldn't have to do any of that manual copy and pasting.
Right. It would all be automated.
That's amazing.
And that's just one example. You could use Python to automate all sorts of tasks in Excel.
Like what? Give me some more ideas.
Well, you could automate your monthly reports. You could create custom visualizations. You could even build interactive dashboards.
Okay, so we're talking about saving time, improving accuracy, and basically taking our Excel skills to a whole new level.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up for our listeners today, even if you're not a coding expert, don't be afraid to explore the power of Python and Excel.
Yeah.
It might seem intimidating at first, but the potential benefits are huge.
Absolutely.
And if you do run into any of those pesky errors, remember our magic shortcut.
CTRL+ALT plus Shift plus F9.
That's right, CTRL plus Alt plus Shift plus F9. It's a lifesaver.
It is.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Excel and Python.
It's been a pleasure.
And before we go, just a final thought for you all to ponder. What other powerful combinations of tools might we be overlooking in our daily work? There's a whole world of possibilities out there. So keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows what amazing things you might find. Until next time.